please ensure that you have read and understood all instructions on the screen before undertaking this job. Start by parking the vehicle on flat, level ground with the handbrake applied. Turn the vehicle off and ensure both front and rear wheels are suitably chocked and the vehicle is safely secured before proceeding.
What's up guys, Mitch here from Superior Engineering. Today we're going to be installing a set of our Nissan Patrol rear upper control arms. First things first, we'll get started by ripping the old arms out. So getting ready to install the new Superior Engineering upper control arms. So we've gone ahead and used our little cheat sheet here of measurements to suit lift heights, just to set the length of the control arms, making it super easy for you. Once you get on the install and get the car back on the ground, you can then work at fine tuning your pinning angle by adjusting that pinning angle to suit your transfer case. These are just some set measurements that are going to make it a lot easier for you to get it a lot closer than having to drop the car on the ground and pull the arm out and extend it an extra 30 mil or shorten it, however the install goes. So best way to identify what side the arms go in is always off our Superior Engineering engraving. This one needs to be read from virtually looking from the outside in towards the upper control arm. So we know that this side is the passenger side, as it can read like a book, front and back of the vehicle. So this car came to us with non-factory bolts in it, and the bolts actually didn't fit through the factory bushings we use as crush tube in the center. If you're ever looking to replace your bolts in your Nissan Patrol control arms, these are an M14. We're using a 1.5 thread pitch, so that's very, very close to standard, or it is standard, I believe. That way we can slot these in. You're not going to have any loose issues with it coming loose or not fitting into the crush tube. Good to go. As we're putting non-factory bolts into these control arms, we're going to be using spring washers and a nylock nut, as well as using Loctite 262, just making sure there's no chance of those threads coming loose whilst you're out on the tracks where the car's getting a lot of vibration. As we're working up on a hoist here, we've got the pinion supported, and this is how you can align the control arm bolt. Obviously, as if you've shortened the arms up shorter than factory, they're not going to align correctly to suit the bolt holes. With doing this, we've got like the jack stand here underneath the pinion that we can wind up and down to suit it. If you're doing this at home on the floor, you can actually do the exact same thing with a bottle jack or any sort of trolley jack or anything like that, just to lower and raise that pinion angle, and that way it's going to align those bolt holes perfectly. Because essentially that's why you're shortening these arms up top, is to align this pinion angle. So it makes it super easy. When you've used our little cheat sheet we had on the screen earlier, you can align these super easy by raising and lowering the pinion. Obviously with these again, we're going to be leaving these bolts just to a finger tight, making sure that they're not done up tight whilst the vehicle's suspended in the air, whether it's on jack stands or hoist or anything like this, with the diff being held up, not at its factory ride height. That way we avoid those bushes getting torsioned up whilst they're not at their factory ride height or the vehicle's new lift height, and that way it'll stop premature wear on your bushes. We see it every day of the week where people do their bushes up in the air, and that causes you premature failure to bushes every day of the week. So making sure that it waits till this car is sitting at its ride height, once back on the ground under the vehicle's full weight, before doing any of these bolts up tight. So we've completed all the other work we had planned to do to this car. Now we've got it on the 4-post hoist so the vehicle's sitting under its own weight at its new ride height, and we can begin by working through all of the bolts so we can torque it up to the specifications needed for each component. So any jobs we have here in the fit bay, when we fit any components and once we've got the bolts torqued up and Loctited, we make sure we put a pen mark on every single bolt, making sure that there's a witness mark. So if any time you jump under the car later on when you're working on it, you see that one of these pen marks isn't aligned, you know that that bolt's come loose and you need to re-Loctite and retension that bolt. So now we've got the pinion angle set in the vehicle, the upper control arms have been torqued up with Loctite on all the bolts, as well as your jam nuts have been tightened up nice and tight to lock each other off so there's no movement in those arms. Once that's all done, your vehicle's ready to hit the road.